So we are in the garden, or a facsimile thereof. Oh boy, such a peaceful transition into a new time zone, timeline that has taken place today. Peaceful is as peaceful does. This is Reverend Sharon, and I am speaking not just to myself, but to the universe. It has been a most eventful 12 months. One cannot look at years. This evening, Center for Human Development. Oh, sorry. Center for Inner Wisdom. Ah, I remember the other center. However, this evening, we shall be one accord with those who believe a certain thing, those who believe as I believe. Not only that we are not alone, but that in our not aloneness, we have assistance of a very high level. We call that assistance the Laricus order. There we go. And those who ascribe to that order are aware of the potential of humanity to reach into its level of ascension even now as we speak, as I speak. So, in order to get this acknowledgement of the energies going, I am going to first utilize the bells, the bowls. Okay. And just a little chanting to go along with that. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, my bowls are not resounding as they should. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om 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 Namah Shivaya. Okay, we have one. Oh my goodness. I need to come back to the room. Good evening, Nelia. Hello. Can you hear me, dear? I guess not.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, my dear.
Good evening.
Mm. Robert is running a little late, but his text says that he'll be coming. I have sent out the notifications to the usual suspects. And so those that can make it shall, I'm sure. Okay. Ah, he is reviewing the, I believe, the fifth. He's reviewing the fifth interview from Nareda, and he's going to discuss the human 1.0. So, if you haven't had him discuss that before or heard him discuss that before, that is very, very profound.
I have not.
Okay. Well, it goes into the, how shall I put it? You've read some of what has gone. Good evening. Hello, how are you, Vaughn? You're walking? That's okay. You're muted. That's fine. Uh, so we have Vaughn with us as well, and Robert should be with us in just a moment. And there he is. Oh, my love, how are you?
It's been a day.
I'm sure that it has.
But it's been a magnificent day.
Yes. Do you remember the text I sent you today about it being fabuloso?
Thank you so much for that message. And I have not had a chance to return the phone call to your friend,
Melvina, right?
Malvina, but you please assure her she will hear from me.
I will.
When is the best time to contact her?
She works in the school system, and so after 3 o'clock during the week is the best time, unless it's what is it? What that they call for the children? You know what I'm talking about, where they let them out early or they have a free day.
Yeah.
So yeah. So she said she was going to, knowing how busy you are, she would wait until Wednesday to see if you guys could set up another appointment. I knew that you guys would love each other. I knew it. She is an extremely powerful shaman.
Well, I sensed that.
Yes. Yes, she is. And she loved the energy. She loved the entire setup of yesterday. She called me what was it, 7 o'clock, 7:30 this morning to say, I'm still vibrating from yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, you're vibrating. I feel as if I'm in another timeline, to tell you the truth.
Well,
that has been my day.
The healings are racking up, mounting up. I am ever so thankful to be of service. Today we had an unusual experience. When we were done with our examples in the class, I was down to just Paul, Jack, myself, and the other two students. And one of them has had a sore in his neck for almost 4 years. Actually, the anniversary, right this weekend, of that sore coming.
Oh, wow.
And it was said to have been an implant by the Akashic Records.
Really?
And whoa, we had fun chasing that sucker down, but we won.
Oh my God.
We were ripping and tearing and pulling all over the body wherever it moved. Thank God it was an energy worker that it was happening to, because he could identify the movement quickly and responsibly. And we just chased it and chased it. It was really fearful, but we did succeed and returned it to the ether where it could continue a responsible life among good energy.
Okay, now this is not to distract from what we're going to discuss this evening. However, I've got a quick question for you.
Okay. You know, it's all connected to what we're discussing this evening.
I know everything is connected. It's all one.
Yeah.
However, the purpose of the record keepers or the librarians of the Akashic Records, why would they need to put an implant in someone?
No, they didn't.
They didn't.
They did not. No, it was an extraterrestrial implant.
Okay.
That was put in. The Akasha made reference to it, identified it, so we knew what we were after.
Okay. All right. So I misunderstood you there.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you clarified that.
And we opened the records so that we would know what we were dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you can't do in a typical healing. We don't have the time to do it. But when we see something that doesn't respond, it's the anomaly. Everything responds.
Mm-hmm.
And if something doesn't respond, then you set it to the side, and where there is time and opportunity, you open the Akashic Records, you identify what it is you're dealing with, and then you know a more direct route to treat it. And I treated it last week. It did not make any improvement. I noticed it, and I said, today we're going to do a better job. And we did.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
And the sore was on the side of the neck, just under the ear.
Well,
but it moved all over.
You know that's just under the neck or in that vicinity, there is a portal.
Yep.
the one that activates the pineal gland.
Yep.
It's the pituitary gland that activates, and that's the portal or the chakra that correlates with the throat as well.
Right.
So that's a major operation you did there.
Yes. It was.
Reminding me of John of God. Okay, so we are here. Shelley said that she would be here. I sent her the link. I don't know how to get in touch with Karen, but I think she did say she wouldn't be able to make it this evening.
Okay.
But that's okay. Sherry is still in Sarasota, I believe, where I was supposed to be this last weekend, but that's okay. That's good. And we have Nelia and we have Vaughn, and we are here, Center for Inner Wisdom. And so the question that we're doing or working out is about the 5th interview. I saw your text, and so you're going to enlighten us on the 1.0.
Well, I figured the best place for us to begin is at the beginning. Last week was more or less a setup
Yes.
of this interview. And while we're at this point in discussion, let me say there is a very astute and brilliant disclaimer, because this is a poison pill that humanity has to swallow with this information. Nobody likes to feel possessed, manipulated, or owned or controlled by any entities. We're independent. We have an independent spirit. The only thing it is dependent upon is love from and to one another.
Yes.
And outside of that, none of us want any form of control. To even think of our ancestors as being controlled, it's hurtful. It's an insult. It's an assault on our intelligence and our independence. So the disclaimer is you don't have to buy it. To follow the practices of the Wingmakers will certainly bring you to new heights. You don't have to buy into every aspect of the story, but it makes for interesting discussion. And together, maybe we can come to a place where we're more at peace with the content of this particular interview.
Okay.
What do you think of that statement?
I love that statement.
Well,
because I realized that for a lot of people, following just the interviews is like plunging headfirst through the rabbit hole.
Yep.
Without a parachute. You're going in. And so I believe very strongly in the information that the Order of the Laricus has brought forth. And the disclaimer that you mentioned is the same disclaimer that they mention when you start studying the Kabbalah. Because there are parts of the Kabbalah that are so out of the norm. I'm being gentle with that one. That you question certain things, but it depends on what level of understanding you desire to bring yourself to. What do you accept or are willing to accept?
Okay. I entered the Florida Atlantic University Institute of Judaic Studies and had extensive conversations with the Rabbinical Council of the United States on Kabbalistic interpretation and Kabbalistic practice. At some point in time, I would like to have a deeper discussion with you about what they taught me, what they have stated.
I I have to let you see a copy of my red book. Well, I've only got one, but it's a healing book, which I think you'll appreciate. And there have been times when I have been asked to assist in the healing process of other people,
Uh-huh.
and normally, and it's not necessary, but I have my own rituals that I follow, and my observation of the red book and the Zohar is something that's a part of my schematic
All right.
when enlisting that. But that's for me.
Right.
Uh, that has nothing to do with the beliefs of the other person or the individual.
Right.
That is in, like, for instance, your uh, identification with the healing modality that you're using now, the one that you're working on with people now, the one I experienced yesterday.
Yes.
That is something that is a part of your belief system now, and it enables you to bring forth that universal God force within you to assist as many people as your heart desires you to do. And that's a good thing. I believe in that as well. And so, to me, though, it's like if drinking a cup of rusty water did it for you, then that's a good thing. And I will endorse the cup of rusty water. It's all about so much more, but it's not about as much as we think it is.
Right.
So you and I have an appointment this week to discuss the Red Book and whatever else we need to discuss. And I'm coming in for another treatment sometime this week, probably. As soon
Well,
we're gonna get it.
actually,
We're gonna get my schedule cleared. So that,
this week is reserved for distance treatment.
okay,
Next week we're beginning back in-house.
okay,
I've got interesting distance treatments I'm doing
okay.
right now, and being that I don't yet have full-time attendants to work with me in the center on a daily basis, we have no one to share these distance therapies with.
Ah,
And they're powerful. Distance healing sometimes carries much greater strength than local or hands-on therapies.
having experienced the distance with Reiki, I endorse that also,
Yeah.
and I cannot wait to assist you. But let's continue on with the
Well,
one point.
first thing, we should wish Robert a happy belated Earth Day,
Oh,
since
thank you, my brother.
since that recently just came and passed.
Thank you.
And the second thing is, I think, what might be very helpful is maybe if Robert could share a little bit more about the actual modality that you're referring to, just from an informative standpoint for anyone that might be listening to this or listening to this at a later time.
Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you very much. It's vital life force energy therapy. I use a system of muscular contractions to draw in greater force from the ether. And I use stiffness of joints, fingers, and muscles to direct that power to my client. It's my way of contractions and release that direct certain types of frequencies to be emitted at certain times for certain purposes. The one thing that this system doesn't do is fail, because we're in a new era of healing. The veil is becoming very thin. We're beginning to pierce the veil, and we can achieve things that we before hoped to achieve but didn't always achieve. So I call this healing for the 21st century, because this, I believe, is what humanity was being prepared for going back to September 2012, and moving forward, the blood moons, the blue moons, the planetary alignments, so
The
on and so forth.
eclipses, the solar eclipse, yep.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is bringing us closer and closer. And I, for one, struggled with it all because while I sensed struggle within me, I didn't sense results. And then boom, this fell into my lap, into my presence, into my being, first by meditative connection with my guides and channeling them, and then my journey to Eastern Europe. The finishing touches were put on it. I got a whole new form of baptism, sticking my bare feet in a freezing lake at 1,600 feet, nestled among the Alps, and then the subsequent burning of my feet and the constant electrification. I said, holy crow, this is a new form of baptism. But I have become transformed. And Vaughn, I can't wait to see you because I want to see your reaction when you see me. My body presents differently. My affect is different. My effect is different.
Yes.
But the healings are bringing results. I had somebody stop me at the Spiritual Oasis and she said, Robert, you've never looked so good. I said, well, thank you. I said, are you offering to take me out on a date? I said, thank you. I have a revitalization within me. I have a new expression of life to show the world.
That is wonderful.
And things that mattered to me yesterday don't matter.
Doesn't matter to you anymore.
Yeah. So there was a definite transformation. And, you know, all healings should really be physical, emotional, and spiritual.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have experienced it across the spectrum, but now I'm recognizing others experiencing it across the spectrum. I had a student in today, and while I was training in this methodology, 2 people that are going to work hands-on with me in the center and are teaching me how to teach this because I've not taught this system. We worked one at a time on a very unwitting subject. And the difference in that man from the time he walked in the door until the time he left was profound. His posture had changed. His cheeks were rosy, like a baby's cheeks. You know, you could see a flowering of the energy within him. With this energy, to hold a vial of calcium carbonate, which under a scanning electron microscope looks perfectly square, within 2 minutes, it is transformed, and to put it again in the scanning electron microscope, it resembles a flower.
After the work has been done.
After the exposure to that energy for just 2 minutes, that molecule doesn't look square anymore. It looks like a flower.
And I think that, you know, that is a very powerful statement that you're making.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it sort of brings, it brings to mind, you know, there's these videos, What the Bleep Do We Know?
Yep.
And What the Bleep Do We Know Too? And in that video, there's that whole reference to the water experiment where
yes, I was just thinking about that. Yes.
Just by the use of a particular word, and depending on the nature and obviously the frequency that that word possesses.
That word being love.
Love, or the antithesis of hate. Well, the love resulted in, just like you're describing, more of a geometrical, symmetrical, floral pattern, unfolding, you know, sort of like that, you know, the snowflake sort of patterns. And the same water from the same source that is exposed to the word hate, you know, those water molecules were actually looking not only discolored, but actually had no real shape and, looked very, they looked sick. So as you are explaining and expressing what you're explaining and expressing right now, it brings that to mind, and I can begin to understand the the underlying wisdom of the modality that you're practicing.
I'm anxious to expose you to the therapy, Vaughn. I welcome you at any time. I'll go out of my way for you to experience it and feel it. And I would love to expose you to it while you're in a meditative state so that you internalize it and bring new light.
The timing of this and the conversation and what you're sharing. Hello, Sharon. How are you?
I was about to recognize. There she is. This is another one who cannot wait to be under your hands, Robert.
I would love to share it.
Sharon.
Hi, everybody.
Hello,
Gorgeous
my love.
people.
Hello. Robert, not to redirect or distract the conversation, but you and I are well overdue for a meeting up, and I'm thinking that it should happen sometime this week, between this week and the weekend. So we'll make that happen. We'll coordinate.
I like that.
Thank you.
We have.
Thank you, my brother.
There's nothing but love this evening. Unconditional. Unconventional. Yes, you can feel it. Nelia experienced the modality, and she still talks about it. Nelia, are you going to say something this evening, or you going to just listen in? Hello? Okay. That's okay. All right. So we are. And we are waiting for you, Robert, to bring about some of the fruits of your wisdom on the 1.0.
All right. It begins with the story that unfolds in the very early pages of the fifth interview. And the first thing that I have question and commentary on is that the Atlanteans were core dwellers. I have certain associative memories of Atlantean and Lemurian origin, and I don't remember core dwelling. But perhaps
you and I discussed that also. Very good.
Yeah. But taking this the way in the spirit in which it was presented, it becomes the very first statement and the very first statement that I would challenge. Now, the second statement is that the Anunnaki, off-worlders, were not three-dimensional beings. I don't have issue with that. Does anybody?
No.
No.
I don't.
In their quest to become visible, they needed gold. But they needed gold in a liquid, not a solid form. And what they're saying here is that the entire planet was in a liquid form. They needed it to be visible and functional in a third-dimensional world. And as such, that allowed them to collect gold easily. But then a change and a shift began to take place on Earth. And the span is an unspoken amount of time, but it's probably millennium. And as Earth began to solidify, the Anunnaki were no longer able to mine the gold, and they needed slaves to do it. over tens of thousands of years. They began the pre-human ape-like forefathers because the Anunnaki themselves still had not found a way to become physically manifest. So they created a race that had many stops, many starts in the process. And they were rather ape-like, our forefathers. They were biological in nature, but not fully physical. They had an etheric quality about them. The Anunnaki and Sirians designed them to be evolutionary in their nature, with the densification of the planet. So as the planet itself became more dense and solid in form, these forefathers would also become more dense and solid in form. The Anunnaki just needed that constant supply of gold. And so they were really engineering these creatures to be physically capable of mining and providing the Anunnaki with what they needed. That slavery again, you know? It bugs me. So they began to structure these individuals where the brain didn't have the function of the human brain of today. And they created this structure so that implants could be placed in these individuals, and they were placed within the bones and the skeletal structure of the human being. And they were powered by the muscle of the individual. But these implants allowed these early humans, we're going to call them 1.0, to be manipulated, tracked, watched, and so on. They were literally taking Atlantean core and placing them within this physical body of this ape-like structure. But when that ape-like structure would cease to be, the Atlantean would go on living in spirit form, but the Anunnaki then created yet another structure where they could be placed and pulled back into a new body later on. So the Atlanteans that were being placed inside were the substrate for the growth of a soul and a spirit as we know it today. These humans 1.0 didn't know love. They didn't know marriage. They didn't know unity. They didn't know loyalty other than to the programming that was provided them. And with each iteration or reincarnation, they began to come out of that slumber and develop what we would today call a tude, an attitude.
An attitude.
They were developing as evolutionary beings into the independent human beings that we are today, constantly evolving. Which brings me to a point. That implant, that structure, that thing that allows continual upgrades from the Anunnaki source and the Syrian programmers who were creating the programs for upgrades, literally is what we pulled out of a human being today. So there are still some affected by this technology. And for all we know, it could be you or me. But this entire premise of outrage that trips so many people up is the idea that through reincarnation, we are supplying the Anunnaki's dream of control of humanity with continual life and rebirth. Doesn't it make you stand back? Doesn't it make you want to fight back?
I've heard people talk about wreaking havoc, seeking revenge. I've got a question. The implant that you removed, was it something in the physical that you could actually see, or was this?
No.
Okay.
It's an energetic implant.
It was an energetic.
But you know, let's talk about energy. First of all, we are physical beings. We are entirely energetic.
Yes.
If you took the energy out of us, we cease to be, and the cells would fall apart. The entire body would dismember. So there's even an energy that remains in place, holding the physical form together until it's decomposed. That energy disappears slowly, progressively. The idea of any, well, it's the prehistoric high-tech version of slavery. They needed slaves to mine the gold, so they created Neanderthal-ish humanity 1.0 to do their bidding and to mine their gold, and never gave them the pleasure of love, never gave them the pleasure of unity, a sense of belonging, the joy of sexuality, a marriage that would make them fruitful and produce children. They were denied all of that. They were just Atlanteans, placed in a Neanderthal human being, and when the Neanderthal would die, the Atlantean would be placed into the system that they created, where they could be reincarnated into a new Neanderthal 1.0 human. Give me a break.
Okay. Does anybody have questions? No. Okay. I understand that this is coming from Dr. Noreda's translation of what he encountered. And I'm going to play the advocate here as far as the source of the information is concerned. How many references do we have as to where or how he acquired this information? People who are familiar with the Wingmakers and with the Laricus group know that there is an organization somewhere in the background called the ACIO. People that will listen to this in the future or whenever there's a viewer, one or two, that's going back and forth. I don't know what that is, but that's okay. In other words, I don't want to say integrity, but where exactly is he getting his information from? I can go to the source of where he has acquired this knowledge, right?
This knowledge is from the contents found in the cave in New Mexico. They were brought back to the National Security Agency. They worked relentlessly until they cracked it all and they were able to decipher it. It was built, it was meant, it was intended to be opened at this time in society so we could understand our origins and help us understand what we are breaking free from. It goes back to something I said before about the events leading up to where we are at this moment in time. We are beginning to pierce the veil.
Yes.
So we shouldn't be too surprised by outrageous stories hitting our ears that tell us of our origins. And it doesn't mean I'm ready to buy into it all 100%. But I also have to recognize that it reminds me of slavery in the cruelest, crudest form, and I reject it with every fiber of my being. Nobody wants to feel a slave.
No.
And having a friend that had a sore on his neck that lasted him 3 years and it never got better, and doctors couldn't identify it. They couldn't find a pathology responsible for it. It was just a sore and it was always there. And I looked today and I said, well, we have a goal. We have an objective. We're going to help our friend lose this or heal this sore on his neck. But let me tell you, this sore is an old energy. It's not new, it's old. And it's got to go. And we chased it all over the body. It was shaken in its boots from the moment the Akasha was opened and it became identified. It was not happy and it was ready to run. It was literally experiencing its own fight or flight syndrome. And the chase ensued. But with each time, it tried to take refuge in an area of his physical body. It was identified, and we were on it. We were on it very quickly, but we were a team of 3 people. And that's what it took until it finally settled down. Either it lied to us and it hid somewhere else, or it's totally gone. But he felt a physical shift.
Okay.
He felt a physical shift, and we were done at that point. That was our last act of the day. So it was just gathering personal things, and within 30 minutes, we saw physical change in the sore. It was already beginning to change.
Absolutely fantastic. And Sharon has a question. Yes, my dear.
Okay, well, none of us are strangers to healing and what have you. And, Robert, in your healing of this beautiful soul, I'm saying now, you were able to pinpoint where, you could see it moving all over the body, like an attachment moving in different parts of the body and what have you, yes?
Well, I have to say no. In my modality, I suppress the visions, the intuition. I take it at face value. But since I was working on somebody that is extremely energy sensitive and himself a healer, he was able to identify the places in the body. So he told me it moved here, and then it moved lower, and then it was around the back, and then it was down in the groin,
Right.
which is, by the way, the last place I pulled it from. But I mean,
Well, I guess the question that I am trying to get to in this, and a lot of the times, because I've even had an attachment removed from me, and based on one, there was like a crystal reading done on me prior to my actual healing, and then after which, you know, first of all, when you go to this healing, you're pretty much, you know, identifying what it is you want to have healed, because again, this is us coming together in unison, because you know it has to be about this free will, what have you. But a lot of the times when you see these various attachments or what have you that are being or in the process of being removed, a lot of the times it's also based on the various thoughts and feelings that would have brought this energy in. Okay, so meaning I've been in a position where it was talked to, you know, this thing, you know, I remember looking at my eyes and saying, no, they're not my eyes. And then coming to find out I go through this whole healing and to have this thing all of a sudden that was discovered, removed from me. So I guess where I'm going with this, meaning something had to have brought that in. Yes?
Yes, it was identified.
Oh, and it was identified.
It was
Okay,
identified.
so meaning,
But it was identified.
what was it speaking to in that
Russia.
then?
It was
I'm sorry?
identified through the records.
Okay. So meaning, what would have brought that in a sense, or we don't have to discuss that here, but you know, there's a thought and a feeling a lot of the times.
Yep.
We don't even recognizing that we're pulling things from prior lifetimes to this particular lifetime. And
That's where my head first went, Sharon. You're right. My head first went, and when I said the words, this is a very old energy.
right.
I sensed age of thousands upon thousands of years.
Right.
But it didn't identify source, because this was before we actually went into the healing. And when I go into the healing, I wipe. I shut intuition down. I shut empathy down. I shut everything down, and I'm following a very strict protocol and practice.
Right.
I think hearing what Robert is saying right now is interesting, because you're talking about the concept of gate management.
Yep.
Understanding the pathways through which we are exposed and vulnerable to all these types of attachments.
Right.
When we talk about attachments, and you talk about in reference to Sharon's question as to, you know, how does these attachments, how do they enter the being? The emotions and the thoughts or the feelings that we have, these are actually not necessarily the gateways or what actually attracts the attachment in. These are symptoms that we're experiencing as a result of the attachment or that energy already being within the being. And so your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions are very, very key in being able to, number one, understand what you're feeling, to be able to define it, to give it a name, because it's very important for us to be able to have the vocabulary to be able to, you know, not to communicate, but the vocabulary to understand our own selves, right? Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of these attachments, some of these more ancient attachments are actually coming down through more of your ancestral lineage, these kinds of things. And, you know, a lot of this stuff is programmed within not the conscious mind, or quote unquote the lower mind that we're functioning with and everyone's aware of, and your thoughts and you know, my speech and all this stuff, but it's happening in the background. It's like you are a computer hard drive and you've got this software that's loaded way deep in the hard drive, and it's running in the background and you're not aware of it, and it's corrupting and affecting all of these other programs. It's drawing energy from these other programs and stopping them from running efficiently and from the outcome, desired outcome, being able to be realized. right? And it's so funny because it's all the same thing, you know, when, you know, the idea, for example, that no matter who we are, scientifically, between the age of 0 and 7, we essentially create the software through the life experiences and everything, and we set these injunctions and we set these judgments, and we create an idea and a concept of our worldview. And this can carry us for a while, and we are attached to these ideas, we are attached to these paradigms, and these are also energetic constructs that at some point in time later on in life actually becomes a problem, becomes an issue, and it manifests in the body. So the idea, the concept of attachment, where attachments come from, and how do we begin to understand our own being such that we have a level of self-mastery in realizing the healer that's within us and being able to do that self-maintenance, or beyond that, to be able to go in and remove the software that's in there and create your own software and load it into the system.
Now, I'm going to interject or throw in. This is a delicious pot. I'm going to interject one phrase, stir things up a little bit. Auric field. Your auric field. Whoops. Okay. Maintaining one's auric field is very, very essential to what Vaughn is saying and to what Robert is referring to, and to Sharon's question. And of course, in maintaining the auric field, what am I saying? I'm saying basically that it requires doing the work, which is something that not everyone is familiar with. Though if you have a particular construct and you follow that construct, it may be one that has been organized to allow you to keep your auric field clear. However, as in the case of Robert, who has acquired another modality, yes, love it, love it. This particular modality will serve you to continue to keep your auric field clear and to assist others in doing the same. Now, what we have here is, at this point in time, an elimination of all the constructs that have not fulfilled their purpose, or at least the purpose that we desire, which is to be able to free ourselves from the slavery and continue on to our next level of development. Okay, so now that I've added that ingredient to the pot, let's see what type of stew we have.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, I get, yes, you can maintain your auric field, and I'm going to use myself as actual proof in a sense, and, it's a beautiful thing now, Robert, we have you now that you have this beautiful modality, under your belt, so to speak. A lot of the times too, now you're just a surgeon. You don't know how it got there.
I call myself a bloodless scalpel.
Oh, okay. So the thing of it is, it's like, you care about A and B, and, we're going to get to the C. You know what I'm saying? And trying to maintain that, because I am definitely one that does work, and I'm constantly doing work, and I've come to recognize that, my main existence in this particular incarnation is to heal. So the thing of it is, I had a particular situation that took place that brought on that thought and that feeling, that pulled that energy from that particular lifetime. I want to say probably back in the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. But anywho, I pulled that from there here into this incarnation based on an experience that I was having, not really truly recognizing that I was pulling this from a prior lifetime. So I guess where we get to in this at this point in time is like recognizing, okay, one, you don't realize you do have an attachment, you have something going on, yes. But then when you think back and say, oh, wow, this could have opened that door for this to come in. So now we have to, you know, monitor those thoughts and those feelings so that we are not bringing things from prior lifetimes into this particular lifetime. Saying to you on that, no. Go ahead. So I guess what I'm saying here is it's one thing to try and maintain your auric field, but there's another in having the experience. You came into this lifetime to have the experience, yes? Somewhat?
Yes.
So I guess where I am actually going with this whole thing is that it's hard, you know, because yeah, the bloodless scalpel, it's hard to know where that comes, you know, you're just here to help in a sense like that. But I guess the after you've recognized and you were able to remove, you know, the attachment, what then happens? Will you give someone like, okay, well, say 10 mantras every day, and let's hope that you don't go back to that thought or that feeling that would have brought that in or something like that?
Here's my approach to helping that situation heal. First, the person became totally rejecting of the presence. They have to, from the core of their being, say, I want a divorce from this energy and its presence in my life.
Yes.
And I recognized it almost as a desperation, because as I walked into the room to attend to his needs, he was already starting to pull. I said, relax, breathe, breathe, relax. We're going to work on this as a group. We're going to do it and do it definite. We're going to do it right. We're not leaving this room until we have this under control. And I will look to you to let me know when we've reached Shambhala, so to speak. It didn't take as long as it might have taken, because I think he was very astute. But how? And it's a very good question. How do we prevent the remanifestation of that energy? If there was a patterning that allowed it to take place, and the patterning had to be in place within him, that created the keyhole, so to speak, until somebody came along with a malevolent spirit in a healing practice and stuck the key in that slot, unlocking the door and putting this into place. And whether they did this knowingly or unknowingly, I can't even speak to. And I didn't even bother to try to go into the conversation. But what I did was I worked to create a smoothness to the aura. I worked to try and bring it into more of an egg shape or a pear shape. I worked to bring it to no tears, no bruises, no rips. And then I pumped that sucker and pressurized it with bioenergetics, the very vital life force energy that we all thrive upon, that we're made of. But it is specifically geared to him. That gives him the ability to resist two things: energetic implants and disease.
Okay, now I need to say this quickly.
Yep.
It is after 9:30, 9:36.
Right.
And I promised to not keep you out too late. So if you feel like another 15 minutes is good, or it's up to you, because I know that you have a great deal on your plate. However,
I do have a lot.
yes.
All right, I want to introduce something else that I didn't do before. So, the human uniform, or human 1.0, this ape-like being was the creation of the Anunnaki, according to this. The implants that would drive this being and allow it to be monitored and controlled with continual upgrades was programming and implants created by the Syrians. But the actual programming of the implants was done by an individual that went by the name Marduk.
Mm.
I don't know who Marduk was or is.
Hmm.
Does anyone have insight?
Mm.
Should I look it up?
I think so.
Yes, I think that would be apropos.
I believe that Marduk was or is reportedly was reported as the son of Ida and Lil or Enki, which were it has to do with the Anunnaki. I guess their leadership and that family, that ancestry kind of a thing. I believe Marduk was supposedly the son of one of these individuals.
Oh, he was a patron deity of the city of Babylon.
Hmm.
Ah, interesting.
When Babylon became the political center of Euphrates Valley in the time of Hammurabi, he slowly started to rise to the position of head of the Babylonian pantheon, a position he fully acquired by the second half of the second millennium before Christ. In the city of Babylon, Marduk was worshipped in the temple Esagila. Marduk is associated with the divine weapon Imhulu. Marduk is the Babylonian form of his name.
Okay. All right. I just want to interject this for a moment. The obvious interest and desire for the knowledge of the healing modality that you've come into possession of. Possession, that's not a good word, because if you have learned it, then that means that we all have attained it at some level, and
Right.
we share it in the space of the continuum.
Right.
Wednesday evenings initially was an evening I set aside for discussing and explaining the healing modalities. Those of you who have noticed, I took a little sabbatical on that one, but it's going to start up again next Wednesday. And I've already asked Sharon. We had a brief discussion about mystery schools earlier, but that is really one of my goals, or one of the goals, we'll say universal goals for the coming Wednesday. This Wednesday would not be possible. I am going to the event that Deborah Kelly is having. That's a healing event also, but that's not far from my house. This one, too much information, Sharon. Next week Wednesday. Like to do this again if you're available, Robert, because there will be a roundtable of healers, and Sharon has a magnificent modality that most Westerners are not familiar with, from Brazil. And yes, I cannot forget that. It is beautiful, and it needs to be repeated. And what you're discussing, Robert, needs to be repeated. And I can add a few more spices to the soup as well. And there's a few other people, other shamans, that would participate. They're just waiting on me to say the door is open. So I'm committing you now for that. If it's something that you can do, I can make this as late as you like. If 9:30 is better, 10 o'clock, whatever you would like. as long as it is accessible for you, because this is something that we need. This will, in my opinion, assist people in keeping away from or shielding themselves from this sort of how can we say this nicely, when someone places or something places some sort of whatever gadget
Attachment.
inside of you. Yeah, that also. Yeah, there's so many names that we can call it. And so yes, this falls into our conversation, right, Sharon? Oh yeah. So this is something that is necessary, and this is the time for it. I know that you're familiar with the young men, or is it the old men shall have visions and the young men shall have dreams?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what happened to the middle-aged man?
The who?
Not yet.
Middle-aged man better be at a barbecue with a beer in his hand.
I agree with you, dude. That's wisdom. That is wisdom right there. That's a man who's lived.
I'll be a part of that. You can't let people
Okay.
have that by yourself.
I'm not going to talk about my smoked ribs because I don't do them anymore.
Oh,
Anyway.
why?
I swore off the swine, remember?
Why?
Well, let me think about it.
Bacon heals all. Bacon heals all things. Okay, let me tell you. If you want to get rid of attachment, get some really good bacon.
No.
You want to hear a funny story?
The master put the spirits into the swine. I'm sorry. That
You know,
doesn't work.
I have a funny story about it.
Okay.
Last week, somebody saw me smoking a cigarette. I still have that nasty habit. So somebody saw me smoking a cigarette and went, ew. And I said, better yet, I just had a steak. I had a beer. I'm having this cigarette, and I'm going to leave here, and I'm going to go and cure cancer.
Oh, my God.
I said, the day you can cure cancer, I'll give you a say of what I can and can't do in my life.
Oh, my
Until
God.
that day, I'm not interested.
Oh, my God.
What could somebody say to that?
Good for you.
That would...
Huh?
Well, there's nothing one can say to that. You
Nothing.
know that.
Was it
Absolutely nothing.
It was supposed to sound insane, and it did.
Now that would be an interesting thing to have. Now that I think about it, a healer's barbecue. Let me work on that. Anyway, okay. So the purpose of this evening.
The question is, which healer are we going to barbecue? That's the question.
Boy, look at the time.
So, well, I gotta go. I'm sorry, can't make it to the barbecue.
Oh God. Okay. So this evening was a good pot, a discussion on the 1.0. We did not get to its connection specifically to the Laricus order, but that is coming. Right, Robert?
Yep.
Okay. Because we know that
Listen, do we really care how long this study takes? There was so much contained in these words tonight. I couldn't stand more.
Oh.
Myself. This is a form of slavery that doesn't make me real happy.
Yes.
To think that somebody created reincarnation to keep us enslaved. I gotta tell you, I don't like the idea of it. By the way, I must tell you.
Yes.
My hair is getting darker again.
Marvelous.
My hair is becoming dark again. I'm getting a lot more pepper among those salt threads.
So you know what that means. Instead of Gandalf the White, no, he's going to be Gandalf the Gray.
I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna have to grow this. My hair is really
Just
getting
a little
darker, and I'm having to cut it once a week now. And that's the result of the energies of this therapy. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I was nearly dead. My blood is circulating again.
No. You were never nearly dead, my love.
Not
No,
even.
you're either very alive or totally dead, right?
That's
Exactly. There is no in between, honey.
there is no end to your star. And they say that in the magnified healing concept that also takes place, the hair starts going back to its natural color. And you've heard of the magnified healing, which is very similar. And
I gotta tell you, darling, when you pour enough love in, all kinds of
Yeah.
wonderful things begin to happen.
oh yes,
It can turn the clock backwards.
yes.
Mhm. So true.
Well, we could
And
always
that's the one thing that all healing modalities share in common. Love.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
unconditional
Mhm.
and most appreciated. And Nelia, you didn't have anything to say. I'm getting ready to close off. Robert, if you have something else that you would like to say, please do it now. Any further questions, please bring them out now.
I just want to say one last thing before you close.
Yes.
Birthday, Robert.
Oh, thank you, my love. I love you.
I love you too.
And I
honey.
thank you very, very much.
Thank you, honey. I
It's
need
the first birthday I actually feel like I've gone backwards in time.
Ah,
Good. Yes. Well, fine wine, baby.
Constant change in the essence of what makes Robert tick.
all right.
And I'm a happy man surrounded with people that I love who love me back. And that makes me very fortunate.
I'm happy that you're happy, honey.
Makes you very healthy.
You
Yeah.
are part of that equation, all of you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
And
I thank you.
I have not said anything about my experience with Robert and the modality, but trust me,
I heard. And next.
you know. Oh my God.
Well, it is any of yours for the asking.
I know, and I love you so
Because
much.
the only good thing about love is that it goes stale when it's kept to oneself. It has to be shared.
Right.
Well, in that case, may the love we have for each other continue into the continuum that we so lovingly share, and expand and emanate and radiate until we realize the gods of who we are, or that we are God's God always. Okay. Nothing else to say?
Yeah, one last thing.
Okay.
Anunnaki be foiled, be damned.
Well, you know, if I can say this,
Yeah.
I celebrate the fact that we are aware of this and that we have an organized, I won't call it a battle plan, but in our awareness, we are able to remove and correct what is not right, what is not correct. We have the ability, we've always had the power. And so the fact that we are coming aware or are aware of who we are, we can take it upon ourselves to assist in liberating others. I do believe that that's one of the reasons I'm here. And it always makes me happy when I assist someone in finding freedom, as it does with you in the healing. It's the same difference. We're all healers. You, Vaughn, Nelia, Sharon, any and everyone that's listening, we are all in that position. We just don't recall it.
That's right.
But we shall do more than just recall. We shall be. Okay, just be. And so the blessing goes out to you who attended and for all of you who did not attend, because I know from the frequencies of the energy that runs through our solar system, the vibrations of it, everything that was said this evening, everything that was not said, it is permeating the souls of everyone. And those who are nearly awake or on the way to being awake, they will feel that energy. This is going to be on YouTube for whenever. And there's expansion coming. I'm not going to say anything right now, but there's expansion coming. Bottom line, it has been a pleasure, people. I enjoy these people. I love these faces. Look at them. Yeah. It has been a pleasure. Blessings, good fortune, Godspeed. I am, we are.
I am, we are.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Om Shanti Shanti. And I'm going to lead out with the bowl and Om Namah Shivaya. No, just an Om chant. I don't want to subject you guys to Om Namah Shivaya right now. So we're just going to do an Om to seal the deal. Om. Oh, that's so weak. Come, we can
Oh,
do better.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's hear it again. Om Namah Shivaya. And good night. God bless.
Namaste.
Namaste. Oh.